Hello and welcome back to Broadside Gaming, and welcome back to some Darktide content. I know it has been a while, folks. It has been a long old time, but there hasn't been much going on in the game, to be honest. It's still been pretty sturdy, but what's just been going on? Apart from obviously little changes to the missions, and now we have the Auric level operations, but which are fun. I won't, have a go at that. It's what the game needed, but that's not why you're here. What we're going to talk about today is the very exciting and upcoming drop to Darktide, which is the talent trees. So let's have a look, shall we? So, the talent trees, which were supposed to be in the game on launch, are now ready a year later. But let us not dwell on the mistakes of the past. Let's get excited, shall we? Because they look pretty damn cool. So we're just going to be going through them, and we'll see what each one gets. I'm not going to go through the faff that they've written, because if you want to read that, just go on the website. We're going to talk abilities. So, for our friend the Sharpshooter, this obviously isn't the Sharpshooter, this is Heinrich. But he's got the coolest hat, so that's what we're looking at. So, combat abilities. Executioner stance, pretty much what the ability is he has already. Enter ranged stance for 5 seconds. When in a ranged stance, you instantly equip your ranged weapon. Deal 25% ranged damage. 25% increased ranged weak spot damage, and your spread and recoil are greatly reduced. Elite enemies and special enemies are highlighted for 5 seconds. Base cooldown is 25 seconds. This is an augmented version of volley fire, so it's slightly better than volley fire is at the moment. The next combat ability, which you can switch out so you will no longer have volley fire or executioner stance, is Voice of Command, which replenishes your toughness and staggers all enemies within 9 meters. Base cooldown is 45 seconds. I'm not wildly enthused by this one. It's a toughness boost and stagger. I doubt very much this is going to be taken, apart from in very niche circumstances. And the last combat ability the veteran gets is Infiltrate. Replenish all toughness and enter stealth for 6 seconds. Gaining 25% movement speed, leaving stealth suppresses nearby enemies, and attacking makes you leave stealth. Base cooldown 60 seconds. Again, it might be alright, but I think most people are going to go for execution stance. So that was the combat abilities. Let's have a look at the blitz abilities. So this will be your grenade, basically. Shredder frag grenade. Throw a frag grenade that explodes after a short delay, applies 6 stacks of bleed to all enemies hit, causing damage over time. This is an augmented version of the current frag grenade. Next one up is the smoke grenade. Throw a grenade that creates a lingering smoke cloud for 10 seconds. The cloud blocks line of sight for most enemies and reduces the sight range of enemies inside of it. This might actually be quite useful, especially on harder difficulties where you can, block line of sight on those really, really heavy firefights. So I think this is going to be quite a useful utility ability. And last but not least, the crack grenade. Throw a grenade that deals devastating damage, and it also sticks to flak and carapace armored and unyielding enemies. So kind of like the Ogrin's Rumbler blessing. The grenade now sticks to people. Yeah, I mean, again, I think this will be quite useful. As the it gives you a way to deal with it gives you a way to deal with hard targets that you may otherwise not be able to deal with, which usually you'd pull out your sword and power it up and all that for it. But so yeah, I mean, Overall, combat abilities are a bit, I don't know, for the veteran, but the grenade upgrades, I think they're all pretty solid choices. So let's move on to the Zealot, shall we, for the combat abilities. So, what have we got combat ability wise? Fury of the Faithful, dash forward, replenishing 50% toughness and gaining 20% attack speed for 10 seconds. Your next melee hit gains 25% and is a guaranteed critical hit. Your next melee hit gains 25. I assume that means it gains 25% damage if it's a guaranteed critical hit, but it's not specified. So that might just be an oversight. And its base cooldown is 30 seconds. So this is just an augmented version of the current Zealot ability. The next one is Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. You wield a holy relic that releases pulses of energy every 0.8 seconds. While channeling, allies in coherency have stun immunity and invulnerability. Each pulse replenishes 45% toughness to allies in coherency. If the ally is at full toughness, they instead gain 20% max toughness. They gain plus 20 max toughness. Sorry, I read that wrong. Up to a total of 100. And it's a base cooldown of 60 seconds. That's pretty cool, actually. You can give invulnerability to everyone. I mean, yeah. And the next one is Shroud Field. Enter stealth for 3 seconds. While in stealth, gain 20% movement speed, 100% backstab damage, 100% finesse damage, and 100% critical strike chance. Base cooldown 30 seconds. So this is kind of turning you into like Brillion's Shade from Vermintide. All of those seem pretty decent, to be honest. Right, your blitz abilities. Stun Storm Grenade. Throw a grenade that stuns all enemies within its blast radius. This is an augmented version of the current stun grenade with an increased 50% blast radius. That's pretty good. The stun grenade is useful, especially on high difficulties. Next up is the Immolation Grenade. Throw a grenade that leaves a layer of flaming liquid burning and staggering enemies and barring their path, most effective against unarmored enemies. Again, I quite like that. I can see how that's going to be useful. Blades of Faith. Throw a consecrated knife to deal high damage to a single enemy. Very effective against most enemies, less effective versus carapace armor. Oh yeah, it's a knife. And then underneath it's got Quick Throw. Killing an enemy with and special enemies in melee replenishes 1 knife. Ammo boxes replenish knives. Okay, no, I quite like that. That's an interesting ability. And we've got the Keystone passives for this, which we didn't have for the veteran. Blazing Piety. 15% critical hit chance for 8 seconds when in Fury. Fury is triggered when 25 enemies have died within 25 meters. Martyrdom. Each missing wound grants 8% melee damage up to 9 missing wounds. They have not yet verified whether the keystones will give us more wounds. So, because I don't think 9 is attainable at this point with just the relics. And last but not least, Inexorable Judgment. Moving grants you momentum. Stacks 20 times. When you hit an enemy, spend all momentum, gaining plus 1% melee attack speed, plus 1% ranged attack speed, and plus 1% damage per stack. Lasts 8 seconds. Okay, so stay on the move, hit faster, and do more damage. I like it. They're encouraging the Zealot to be zealous. Not a bad thing at all. Right. Next up, the trusty Psyker. So first up is Venting Shriek. Unleash a wave of warp energy that staggers enemies in front of you. Quells 50% perils. Base cooldown is 30 seconds. This is an augmented version of Psyker's Wrath. So yeah, basically the same thing as it was, but slightly better. Next is Telekinetic Shield. Spawn a Psychic Shield in front of you for 15 seconds. The shield blocks enemy ranged attacks, while you and your allies can still shoot through. Base cooldown 40 seconds. Very useful, encourages team play. I like it. And lastly, Scryer's Gaze. Triggers Triggers Scryer's Gaze. When entering Scryer's Gaze, you gain 10% damage and 20% critical strike chance. For every second in Scryer's Gaze, Jesus Christ, you gain 1% damage up to a maximum of 30%. This effect lingers for 10 seconds after leaving Scryer's Gaze. While in Scryer's Gaze, you build up perils. Build up is temporarily slowed down by killing enemies. At 100% perils, Scryer's Gaze ends. Base cooldown 30 seconds. Apart from them making me say Scryer's Gaze 300 times, I quite like that. I think it's going to make some really interesting Psyker builds. And now your Blitz abilities, which will be replacing Brain Burst. So obviously the first one is an augmented version, so Brain Rupture. Charge up your psychic powers and release it to deal immense damage to a single enemy. Effective against flak and carapace enemies. This is an augmented version of Brain Burst, dealing 50% more damage. Assail. Throw swift homing projectiles formed of psychic energy. Less effective versus carapace armored enemies. So it's like Sienna's tracking fireball, kind of. And lastly, Smite. Unleash a torrent of biolightning using primary fire to instantly deal damage and impact to an enemy on release. Spreading slowly between multiple enemies, charge up the attack to have it spread between enemies faster. I like this. This pleases me. This sparks joy. And what about its keystones? So for the keystones, Warp Siphon, killing an enemy elite, or special enemy gains you a warp charge for 25 seconds. Stacking 4 times, your next combat ability spends all available warp charges to reduce the cooldown of that combat ability by 7.5% per warp charge. So it stacks up to 4 times. 50, so you can cool it down by 30%. Empowering Psychonics. Kills have a 7.5% chance to empower your next blitz. Empowered Brain Rupture. 100% peril cost reduction, 50% cast time reduction, and 50% increased damage. So they're making Brain Burst like super nukey, which is nice. Empowered Smite. Smite gains 30% damage and it spreads 25% faster between enemies. Empowered Assault. 100% peril cost reduction, base damage increased from 100 to 150. Does not consume any charges. Disrupt Destiny. Every second, enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 10% toughness, grants 20% movement speed for 2.5 seconds, and adds a precision bonus for 15 seconds. Each precision bonus grants 1% damage, 2% critical strike damage, and 2.5% weakness spot damage. Precision bonus is stacked to stack 15 times. Yeah, I'm going to be having some fun with a Psyker. And now for our trusty Ogryn. Indomitable. Charge forward with great force, knocking back enemies and staggering them. It gains 25% attack speed, 25% movement speed for 5 seconds. Charge is stopped on collision with monstrosities. Base cooldown is 30 seconds. This is an augmented version of Bull Rush with increased charge. I think they mean distance, but increased charge, it's vague. Loyal Protector. Taunt enemies within 8 meters, making them attack you for 15 seconds. Base cooldown is 45 seconds. So Bardin's Ironbreaker Taunt. Point Blank Barrage. Swaps to and reloads your range weapon. You have a 25% increased rate of fire and a 70% reload speed for the next 10 seconds. Base cooldown is 80 seconds. This is going to be hilarious with Ripper Guns, Stubbers. That's probably what I'll be using. And now for your Blitz abilities. Big Friendly Rock. Toss a big rock or hunk of junk at a single enemy. Reduced effectiveness against carapaced enemies and unyielding enemies. You pick up a new rock every 60 seconds and can hold up to 4 rocks at a time. I mean, it's quite amusing. Bombs away. Throw a box of grenades with great strength and enthusiasm to deal high damage to a single enemy. Hitting an enemy causes the box to break open, releasing 6 grenades around the target. This is an augmented version of Big Box of Hurt. Frag bomb. Throw an Ogryn-sized, the only proper kind, frag grenade with a 16-meter blast radius, dealing increased damage at the center. That's pretty cool. I like that. Now for the keystones. Heavy hitter. 5% damage for 7.5 seconds on heavy attack. Stacks 5 times. Feel no pain. Oh, we finally got a feel no pain in the game. You are blessed with 10 stacks of feel no pain. Each stack grants 2.5% toughness replenishment and 2.5% damage reduction. Taking health damage removes 1 stack. Stacks are restored every 6 seconds. That's pretty cool. I like that. Burst limiter override. 5% chance to trigger lucky bullet and not consume ammo when making range attacks. Basically the charmed reload blessing from the stubber. But yeah, that is a small overview of the talent trees that are coming. I'm actually quite excited by this. It does make a nice difference from, you know, what we've got at the moment, and it gives us some options for, you know, playstyle. We can fiddle around with builds, try different things. It makes the classes a little bit more divergent, which is, you know, it's a good thing. I'm actually looking forward to it. Yes, it should have been there a year ago in the game, because this isn't new. This isn't some new thing that they've got, oh, we need this to fix the game. This was planned content that was supposed to make it into the release build. So make of that what you will. But nevertheless, I am excited by this. I think it's going to be good. You know, let me know what you guys think. What's your favourite talent, blitz ability, keystone? Let us know in the comments. And I'll see you all on the 4th. Some Darktide. Until then, take it easy, folks. And watch for those updates. Also, if you've enjoyed the content on this channel so far, if you could like, subscribe, hit the little bell for notification. It really does help us out. And as I said, until next time, take it easy.